Hey everyone, you're welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. I'm going to just give you guys some time to come in. Please hit that like button as you guys come in. Please hit that like button as you guys come in. Hello everyone, please hit that like button as you guys come in. Please hit that like button. I appreciate that this was an unplanned live, so yes, but please hit that like button as you guys come in. So today we're going to talk about a few things. I want to talk about Marquez practically begging Carlos King for his job back on Love and Marriage Huntsville. I do also want to talk about Maurice defending Martell. There's definitely a lot more, in my opinion, that needs to be talked about when it comes to that. Then also I want to talk about Heart and Hustle Houston a little bit towards the end. So make sure you watch this until the end. Make sure you hit that like button. Everybody, thank you very much. Okay, so there's a comment here that I want to read. Daisy left that a little bit earlier. I don't know if you're in the chat, Daisy. Marquez, please get out of here. Sick of you and hearing about you. Okay. What an intro. What an intro, guys. So let's start with Marquez. So I'm going to share my screen and just show you guys what the latest is when it comes to Marquez. So give me a second. Let me just share that. Okay. All right. So I am going to show you guys really quickly what Marquez initially said. So for those of you who may have forgotten, because it's been a while now, Marquez had posted a while back that and tagged Carlos King, saying that he never checked in on him, never called to hear his side of the story, or even to do any research on who was casted, right? So if you guys don't remember, it's basically in the context of, as you guys know, Marquez got into some sort of physical altercation, allegedly, with Ken on the show. And then after that, he was basically asked to leave the show, right? So then he says, the lies, the disrespect, the disregard for me, my children, my family, and friends, my legacy is nasty work. If you really care about unifying Black families and showcasing Black excellence, maybe you should recover before you reconsider before you how you operate before it becomes your downfall. Call me if you truly care about my mental health. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, That's one of the things I did cover at the time. Was I thought it was very interesting that Marquez was saying, call me if you care about my mental health. That is somebody that is showing that I'm not fully closing the door. I'm giving you an opportunity to hopefully make it right. So now, fast forward to the latest news on this. It seems like Marquez finally wants the job back. So here we're seeing Marquez posted on his story saying, I wanted to take a moment to apologize and acknowledge my prior actions aimed at you personally. After speaking with you, I can admit that I had an emotional reaction at the time, but since then, I've been doing the work, going to counseling, doing the work, getting counseling, focusing on healing my mental health and my family. I'm truly grateful for the conversation we had that night. It stuck with me and helped me start seeing things differently from your perspective. Thank you. And hey, maybe one day you'll get me back on the show so I can tell my story the right way this time. And then says, I am the storyline. And I'm like, okay, fine, Marquez. This is my thing with Marquez, right? I feel like Marquez does not know where he stands. Because one minute you are saying, oh, the way you were treated was awful and you were discarded and they didn't consider your mental health. You had the interview with Queen Sheba, and you had lots to say about how you were feeling and how you felt like everything was set up and all of these things. Yet, you want the opportunity to come back on the show to do what exactly? For them to get another opportunity to set you up? So, I guess my question is, did you truly feel like you were set up initially? Or did you just say that to cover face because of some of the crazy things that we saw you do? Which is it, right? And it's like, stay there. Like, I appreciate that people can change and like your views can change and all of that, and apologizing where you're wrong, that's fine. But my thing is, like, you have been screaming victim for a while now. You have been going and talking about this issue, about how production so-called did you dirty. And then a few weeks later, months later, you're coming out here to talk about, oh, I'm so grateful for the conversation we had that night and it stuck with me and all of that. So it's a little bit pretentious and it's given, I want my job back at all cost. So if I need to like grovel a little bit, if I need to come out here and make it seem like, oh, well, technically, I did this, but I am the storyline. I'm sorry. I've done the work. Bring me back on the show. Maybe it will work. The thing about it is, I feel like it may work because at the moment, it does feel like Trish doesn't really have anything else going on for her except that storyline anyway. So I will not be surprised if they bring him back. The truth of the matter is also the show isn't really doing as well as it should be doing. So I will not be surprised if it's like all right, let's bring it back. Let's bring him back. Let's see if he can bring some drama to the show. Let's run him back. I will not be surprised if that ends up happening because, to be honest, the show needs all the help the show can get in this season. That's just the reality. Also, guys, the likes are not matching the amount of people in this live, so please hit that like button as you guys come in. Hit that like button, please, and thank you. Okay, so moving on, I want to read a few comments quickly before I move on to talk about something else. Someone said, I cannot stand him. It's something about him that screams victim and never take accountability. Ooh, that is very interesting. So I do agree about screaming victim, and also partly about the not taking accountability. I think he tries to, and then he doubles down. When have you ever met people that say, oh, I'm so sorry, and then the next minute they do something again that shows that they're not sorry? That's the vibe I get with him. He does one thing and then doubles down again. But if he's truly getting counseling, and you guys know I've always said this for a while, that I feel like he does need counseling. There are some of the signs and things that he shows. For example, an inability to manage his emotions, allowing people to take you to that extent so quickly is not surprising, personally, right? And so I feel like I'm not surprised that he's gotten to this point. That's what I would say. But if he's truly getting therapy, if he's truly getting counseling, if he's truly focusing on his mental health and doing the work that he should be doing, I would say focus on that work. I don't know if the show is going to be a good platform for you to come back and play with your mental health, knowing fully well how stressful you felt it was, how pretentious you felt it was, unless you were lying to us the whole time and just saying all of those things to run away from accountability. So which is it? I'm going to read maybe another comment. Someone said, two things can be true. Here's the storyline for Tish. Carlos could care less about these people. Absolutely. He definitely knew them storyline. What would their storyline be without him? Absolutely, I agree. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. Baby, you were casted to be on the show. You all love blaming everyone else for how people perceived you, but you were okay acting a fool in front of the camera that's recording you. Take accountability, sir, and move on. This is the thing. It's like, it's what you give them. Don't get me wrong, we've talked about editing, we talk about what production does, but at the same time, it's like you gave them that opportunity. If you had walked away in that moment instead of squaring up, then there will be no footage to be released. There is no way they're going to try to edit that to make you look crazy if you did not give them that particular scene. You could have just walked away and just said, okay, you guys are on some BS, I'm a head out. That could have been the end of it. But you chose not to do that. So yeah, you have no one else to blame but you. Now, shout out to Reality Entertainment TV, because that's where I got this from. All right, so let's move on to the next thing I want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about Porsha real quick, because I know like a lot of things have been doing the rounds. And so I'm going to talk about it really quickly. Please hit that like button, everybody. Okay, so let me just make sure you guys can see it. Yes, you can. All right. So Porsha was, you guys know, just some backstory for those of you who don't know. Porsha basically was able to win in court in terms of enforcing her prenuptial agreement that her and Simon got. And interestingly enough, now the home that her and Simon have together has now been hit with a 6-figure lien after he failed to pay his divorce lawyer. First of all, my question is like, why are you incurring that much cost and not paying? My thing is like, why weren't the lawyers like, because basically you be doing certain bills, right? Like every couple of months or whatever, you send a bill out, the client pays it. So it's like, why weren't you guys doing that? You guys left it until the end to collect your money? Interesting. Now, of course, different law firms have the way or different ways in which they do it. Also, it could be something where he told them he wasn't liquid, but he has equity in the home anyway from the start. And then that was already the plan to put a lien on the property. So that is also a potential, that's a possibility. Genuinely, that could have also been a possibility. Just putting that out there. But I think it's interesting that he owes about $205,000 for his divorce just from trying to enforce the prenup. It's like, dude, you could have that's $205,000 that you're paying your lawyers from your equity share in this property. This is what it's given. It's given, if I can have the house, you will not be able to have the house. So I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do to make sure you don't get the opportunity to keep this house. That is the vibe that I'm getting. Because how are you going to owe $205,000? And then now a lien is being put on the property. It's given, you knew this was the strategy. That is what it feels like. Now, I'm going to just put this out there because I do not want to get sued. I'm not stating this as a fact. This is just my opinion, for entertainment purposes only. I genuinely just feel like that is what it's given, because I just don't understand why you incurred that much and you weren't paying your lawyers, and then now is then being placed as a lien on the property. If that was not your intention to do that to begin with. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, this means that Porsha will not be able to do anything. I don't believe so, right? From my experience of liens, now I will put a huge disclaimer out there, right? I don't know what they be doing in that state. I don't know whether the law is the same over in the state, but generally when there's a lien on a property, right? There are different types of liens. When there's a lien on the property, what could happen is when the property is sold, of course, that certain amount will then need to be basically paid, right? From the whatever the proceeds of the sale is, right? And also with certain liens, right? Certain buyers, you may not be able to sell it without getting some sort of permission to be able to sell the property, right? With a lien being placed on the property. But essentially, what would happen is the portion of his equity, if for instance the property, there's permission for the property to be sold, the property gets sold, there is a portion of the let's say the equity, the proceeds, right? He has a certain percentage of the proceeds. From that, then the divorce cost comes out of that, right? It's not going to come out of her share, it's going to come out of his share of that. Bear in mind also that, as far as I know, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, he's also the one meant to pay her legal fees for bringing this claim against her, even in court, right? So that is also going to come out of his equity. In the end, he may not even have much left on that property at all, right? Or very, very little, very, very minimal after all these different things come out of the sale proceeds. So, excuse me. So I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, and you guys said Porsha won. She still won. She still has the property. Now, the question is, how much equity is in the property? That's where things get interesting, right? How much equity is in the property? How much? My understanding is they're meant to do an equal split between them. So, how much is in the property? So if the property is sold for, how much is he meant to get? How much is that if we take out the legal fees out of it? So these are the questions that I need answers to before I start saying whether or not she won or he won. But for now, I feel like the property is worth 5 million, as far as I know. It may be less than that in terms of like when you start thinking about the liability, like the mortgages on the or the mortgage on the property, all that kind of stuff. But for now, from what I know, the property is probably maybe worth let me see. They've done it for me. Let's see. According to US Weekly, and shout out to Bravo Shade Room for this. Basically, it's a 5-bedroom, 8-bathroom home worth an estimated 7.3 million. Okay, so I don't know how much it is in a mortgage and all that kind of like things that need to come off the property proceeds, but still, I don't think that $205,000 is going to take up everything. So I still think that she will still be left with a surplus. This is just my opinion. But the way he is behaving, if I were Porsha, I would be very mindful. I will proceed thinking about the potential that he's not even going to pay for the upkeep of the house like he's meant to pay. All of these things that he's meant to comply with until I believe 2027 or something. I will assume that he's not going to do those things. If he's already moving like this, my man has no plans to pay for this. So if I were her, I would be very, very careful and make sure that I'm like, okay, I'm speaking to like, a financial planner, like what is it that I need to do? I'm speaking to my lawyer. How is the best way to deal with this? Because you don't want to end up with a massive liability on your hands, Porsha, if you're listening to this. Um, okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about Maurice defending Martell. Now, before I talk about that, I want to talk about really quickly. Let me just remove this from the screen. I want to talk about a little quickly this new show, Heart and Hustle. You guys know I'm already in love with the show. When I watched the first episode, I was absolutely positively in love. Like, I just felt like, wow, this is such a wonderful show. This is a show that is really going to hopefully put OWN back on the map. I feel like there is a huge potential for the show to end up being the number one show on OWN if we as content creators and like viewers do what it is that we need to do. Think about how much influence the content creators, the viewers had on the success of Love and Marriage Huntsville. So I feel like now is the time to put all of that energy that we had for Love and Marriage Huntsville into Hearts and Hustle Houston, right? So I feel like we need to really channel all of that and like try and put that energy into the show because it's a really, really good show. Now, there are some things I really wanted to talk about that happened in this latest episode. Alaina basically talked to her husband. Now, backstory for those of you who may be joining and haven't really listened. Alaina and Chloe were like having a conversation with the girls in a group, right? Chloe was trying to big up Alaina and talking about, oh, she's good looking and stuff. Then Chloe took it too far and basically said her husband was not good looking. Alaina took offense. Alaina didn't say anything about it at the time, but then talked to the other girls about it at a later stage. Okay? That's the backstory. Alaina then decides that now is the time she wants to talk to her husband about this comment. So she then says about the comment to her husband, and he's just like, he doesn't care. He's just like, okay, like, why am I even being brought into the conversation? That is what it felt like. And I'm not being funny, though, but what exactly is he supposed to say? Like, imagine someone comes to me and says, oh, I just wanted to tell you my friend doesn't think you're cute. Like, okay, do you think I'm cute? As long as you think I'm cute, like, that's fine. I don't care what your friend thinks, right? And so I thought it was a little bit weird. Like, it felt like blown out of proportion a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong, I feel like it was absolutely wrong for Chloe to say that. Yes, but I think Alaina should have checked it in the moment. I don't think it's that deep to go tell your husband that your friend doesn't think you're cute. He's cute. That was very odd for me. Like, I was like, that is giving me odd behavior. There's no way I'm about to tell my man that, oh, well, my friend don't think you're cute. That's her opinion. Who cares? Right? So, yeah, that was just like a little segue that I was like, okay, girl, like, there was no need for all of that. You're doing a bit too much on that. But I will say they did talk about other things like their marital issues, which it was very interesting to hear them talk about it. Of course, you can tell they're still talking around it in circles because like nobody's really giving us the facts. But at the very least, he does talk about wanting to do individual therapy first before doing couples therapy. I think that makes a lot of sense. And interestingly enough, when you do want to do couples counseling sometimes, they actually want to have individual sessions with you guys first before even having a group session. So I do think there is definitely room for that. And I think like for most people, it's actually the right way to go about it because sometimes you already have things you're dealing with as an individual that is then trickling down into other things as well. So yeah, I would say good idea. Moving on from that, I thought it was very interesting to see Munira, I remember when we saw her last episode, we felt like she seems alright, but we didn't know enough about her. So, hello everyone. For those who have just joined, we are doing a quick recap of the new show on OWN, Hearts and Hustle Houston. Um, I'm also going to come back after that to talk about Maurice and Martell. So make sure you listen until the end. Also, please hit that like button as you guys come in. All right, back to it. So I do think it was quite interesting to see a little bit more of Munira this time around. Because last episode, we didn't see a lot of like her dynamic with her husband, with her family. So I think this time around, we got the opportunity to see her. It sounds like she works very hard. She wears a lot of hats, and I think it'll be interesting seeing her balancing all of that. And I think like a lot of women can relate to that, where it's like you're juggling a full-time job, you're juggling your side hustle, you're juggling being a wife, you're juggling having kids, right? These are so many different things, yet you have to show up to all these things. So I do feel like I love the fact that we're getting to see more of that, because I think that is something that people can relate to. I do also like how they talk about how they've been married for a long time and they want to do more dates that don't involve the same things that they have been doing. I think like sometimes people can get complacent in relationships where you just feel like, well, we've been together for so long, we're already in a rhythm. There's no need for all these extras. But the thing with that is like it gets boring sometimes. You need to spice things up. And so I love that instead of doing a regular dinner date that they usually do, they decide to try something different and go to a cooking class. It's still about food. Clearly, they're a bunch of foodies, but at least it's a good start. It's a start towards doing something different. I will say, I found it a bit weird that she didn't even let the man sit down and eat that food. She was like, yeah, it would be good for my mom and you to hang out. I'm like, girl, chill. You guys are on date night. At least let the man eat. Let the man chill. Let the man eat. It's like, what is going on? And so it's just very odd that, like, it just went from like really like going at it, or you're talking about you really want a good date night. Next thing, you're out here talking about your mom. Like, please leave mom out of this date night and have a good time with your husband. Anyway, moving on. It was very interesting seeing Ro, Munira, and Librina together. We didn't get to see a lot of Librina this time around, but it's interesting. I feel like she asked all the right questions. Even though I think we only saw her maybe talk once or whatnot, she always decides to ask the right questions. The good thing about asking the right questions is you get the right responses, you get rich responses, right? And I feel like this time around, we were able to get to learn a little bit more about Ro. With episode 1, we thought Ro was just a fun girl, go lucky. I don't even think we knew she had a daughter. But to then see her and to see her interaction with her daughter, to also see her open up about how she felt about being pregnant, her child's father, and feeling like she didn't have support at the time. I definitely thought that that was interesting, just to see that side of her, to see a very different side of her. I love that the ladies were there to like console her and support her. I think that is what I love about the show. It's like it feels like a lot of the women are genuine. That's not to say that there aren't going to be petty behaviors. Absolutely, I can already see some pettiness brewing, but I think that on a whole, when somebody is going through it, there is some support. And I think this is something that Love and Marriage Huntsville lacked, which is when somebody, like when Melody was going through a lot of the things that she was going through with Martell, a lot of the girlies had no empathy towards her whatsoever. And that was very sad to watch. As a woman, it's like when somebody's going through stuff, no matter what, like no matter what it is, even if I'm going through, if I have friends that are going through stuff, my even if I had beef with them or we had something we needed to clear up, you put that on the back burner and show up for your friend or show up for the people around you. It's just like basic level of empathy. That is all it is. So it's a little bit weird that isn't even a thing, right? Now that said, let's move on to the memorial that Chloe had for her late husband. That was very, very emotional. Rest in peace. I wish her and her family the best. Honestly, it was so sad seeing the girls talk about their dad and how emotional they were getting. I am very annoyed that the son didn't show up. And I know the son is upset that she's dating a younger man right now. But my thing is like, at the end of the day, man, at the end of the day, that's your mom. That is your mom. So it's like, no matter what the situation is, that is your mom. She lost her husband. Why wouldn't you be there for the memorial event? It doesn't make any sense. It's like you have one job. Show up for your mom. You don't even have to talk to her. You could still be in your feelings about who she's dating, whatever. Show up. Be there for your sisters at the very least. Not showing up, she's calling you, and then you're having an attitude, not even an apology. Absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. I feel like I'm really annoyed that he did not have enough empathy to put aside his feelings about her dating a younger man. It doesn't make any sense. Like, chill. It's her life. I understand your frustrations. It's like, why are you dating a man that is practically my age? I get it. But at the same time, she is mourning the loss of her husband right now. It's the anniversary. You already know it's going to be an emotional day for your mom. The least you can do is show up. Even if you don't want to talk to her, be quiet. Just hug her, hug your sisters, and let it be that. Unless there's more to the story that we don't know about, which hopefully we'll find out about soon enough. So let's move on to the rodeo. Honestly, am I the only one that is so tired of all these cowboy themed events? Like there's so many of them on a lot of different shows now, and I don't get it. It's like, okay, girl, we get it. But why? Why so many? Why so many? It really doesn't make any sense. Anyway, fast forward to the rodeo. Alaina pulled Chloe to the side and they were having a conversation. This is the thing. Chloe was not trying to hear it. And I get it because Chloe probably is dealing with the loss of her husband, the anniversary period. So Chloe ain't trying to hear nothing, especially because she thought it was such a lighthearted moment. And this is why it's important to address things in the moment. When you leave things and you move on from that, especially when it's a sly comment like this, it just doesn't resonate and land with the person that you're speaking to. If she had just addressed it in the moment and said, "Girl, I know you mean well, but I don't like that comment about my husband. Don't say that." She would have said, "Oh, girl, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it like that." Instead, you addressing it days later, she's thinking, "I thought we all had a conversation, we kikied, we laughed, that was the end of it. Why is this now being brought up again?" That's what it feels like. It's almost like it blows it way out of proportion. So yeah, so I get Chloe not trying to hear it because Chloe was just like, well, okay, your husband is the finest man in the world. Like, cool. I will say things are going to go left between Chloe and Alaina probably in the next episode. I say that because Latoria pulled Chloe to the side. I knew Latoria was not to be trusted, okay? When Alaina, if you remember, I said to you, I wish that she didn't have a conversation with Latoria because now Latoria will bring it over to Chloe. And that's exactly what happened. Because now Latoria was like, yeah, she said that, you can't pull the kind of man she pulls. So now Chloe is pissed. Because Chloe was thinking, I thought it was a light thing. Now I'm hearing that you've been discussing it with other people. So now it's a whole issue. So Chloe is going to drag it. Okay. And we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next episode. But I do think that there's going to be an Alaina versus Chloe. It's going to happen. It is only a matter of time. It's going to happen. Now, let's move on to Maurice defending Martell. I know you guys are not surprised because I was not surprised. So Maurice was over there on Carlos King's YouTube, right? Doing a recap of the show. And the bit I really wanted to talk about is Maurice deciding to defend Martell. Are we surprised? I'm not surprised, but you guys let me know in the chat if you guys are surprised. I'm not surprised because I feel like this is what happens. Martell says something crazy. Maurice tries to be the voice of reason. Marceau is like, burn the whole ish down. Maurice is like, oh no, Martell. Maurice is always coddling Martell. Yet, Maurice still caught a stray in that interview. Do you know how crazy it is? Imagine you are out here riding for somebody and properly always trying to defend this person only for you to catch a stray. I would be so pissed off if I was Maurice. Because it's like, yo, all I do is be out here defending your ass. And then I'm catching a stray? Like, nah, I will be so pissed off. But let me backpedal a little bit. Carlos basically said about how he feels like how does he feel about his name being brought up in the interview? If you guys remember, Martell had an interview where he brought on the alleged side chick of Marceau. And he and his side chick were interviewing the so-called side chick, right? Then there was a point where apparently there was some allegations, and I'm going to say allegedly, okay, about there being some sort of three-way between Marceau, Maurice, and the girl. We don't know if it's true. All we know is that what was said in that interview, okay? So, of course, Carlos brings it up. Like, okay, so what's his response? Maurice was like, he didn't like the interview and he felt like it was unnecessary, but he understands that Martell is battling his back to the wall for like 6 years, blah, blah, blah. My thing is, if somebody is out here trying to spoil my marriage and insinuate that I'm doing a three-way with my brother, is that how I'm going to be responding? Oh, wait. Hell no. Of course not. Because I'm thinking, how dare you insinuate that I would do a disgusting act like that? That would be my reaction, right? I'm not saying go off the handle and start cursing him out. Absolutely not. But I know for a fact that I'm not going to be like out here just like, oh, well, he's dealt with so much and he's lost his family in front of the whole world. Okay, he lost his family in front of the whole world because of his actions. He was the one that was cheating. He was an unrepentant cheater. He was cheating constantly with the side chick, with everybody. That's what he was doing. He was cheating. Had a baby with the side chick. That was not the first baby he was allegedly going to have, but deleted the baby. Okay? So we're not going to act like the world, oh, everything just broke down in front of the world. He did not care when he was continuously doing these things that will put his marriage at jeopardy. So it's like, if he ain't bothered, why should we be? Please hit that like button, guys. Please hit that like button. It's like, if you're not bothered, why should I be bothered? Why? I don't get it. So he was like, oh, he feels like he hasn't really seen anyone being hated on as much as Martell has been hated on. And my thing is, Maurice, people don't like you either. So like, people don't like you. People don't like Martell. But the truth of the matter is, like, there are reasons why people don't like y'all. Like, it's not like people just randomly decided, oh, I'm not going to like this person. There are valid reasons why nobody or why certain people do not like these people. Right? But anyway, Maurice continues to make excuses for him, talking about like it feels like always Martell versus everybody, and that Martell probably feels like he's him versus everybody, and that would do anything to anyone. I get it. I absolutely understand. I do think, yes, he's right on that. But at the same time, this is self-inflicted. This is not some random innocent man. This is somebody who did certain things like perpetual cheating, trying to release revenge P out on his ex-wife, doing certain crazy behaviors that has then resulted in the public feeling like this man is a problem. It didn't come out of thin air the way it's almost made to sound like. It's like everybody needs to feel bad for Martell. What is Martell? Where was the empathy for Melody, his ex-wife? Where was the empathy when she was going through all of the things that she was going through? Where was the empathy when this man was leaving her at home to go over there to the side chick's house in COVID, when they were told to lock down and come back home to his 4 children? Or I think, was it 3 children at the time? The baby came after? I don't know. To 3 or 4 children, whatever the case may be at the time. So it's like, when that wasn't a problem, why are we suddenly like having so much like, oh, what is Martell? Oh, innocent Martell. Like, piss off. So he continues and he said he's been trying to get Martell out of that headspace because there's a completely different side of Martell that the world hasn't seen. That's the same with a lot of like people that have problems. Even the crazy people have some really good qualities. Everyone. Like, isn't there the statement, even the wrong clock is right twice a day or whatever? So even if someone is hella wrong and has serious problems, I can bet that they have some good qualities to themselves. That means nothing, right? My problem with this, right, is not the fact that people can change. I'm absolutely I am one of those people who really believe that people can genuinely change. I believe that you can change, you can choose today, I want to do differently and do differently. The problem is, this man has shown certain horrific behaviors for so long. And then when you think he's going to take some accountability, then he doesn't take accountability. And then he tries to blame everyone else but himself for being in the situation that he placed himself in. So that is why I feel like it's so hard to feel sorry for him, because this is the chaos that he created, but refuses to acknowledge that he created it. Instead, he wants everyone else to see it as something that happened to him. No, you happened to you. You're the weapon that is formed against yourself. You're the reason you're in this situation. So let's shift back to what Maurice had to say. Maurice says there's a reason he was well liked by people initially, and he wants him to showcase that. Dustin said it's probably too late right now, and I'm with Dustin because I feel like he has had so much opportunity. When I say, I don't think anyone had as many chances as Martell had to get it right, yet he didn't, which shows at the core there is something there that he needs to work on and just hasn't. Right? So this is where I agree with Dustin, and I like when Dustin pushes back, because I feel like sometimes people like Carlos, they kind of just let the guests just say whatever for the most part, unless you're coming at production. But I feel like Dustin's perspective is really important here, because Dustin was like, well, it's probably too late for now, right? And Maurice then said they've put him in a space. I'm like, no, he put himself in a space. Like, are you okay? Is everybody okay? Is everybody okay? Because when you say they put him in a space, that gives the impression that he bears no responsibility for being in the state in which he is. The only reason he's in that state was because he put himself in that state. And so I was loving it when Dustin was like, nah, Martell put himself in that space. And I'm like, I love when another man is calling out that, because sometimes when women call it out, a lot of people want to like, dismiss our opinions and make it seem like, oh, you guys are emotional. But here is another man saying Martell put himself in that space, right? And then he went on to say, everyone makes mistakes, but we've seen Martell, we've watched him not take accountability. We've watched him try to blame everybody else but himself. And it gets to the point where nobody wants to see or cares to see that fun-loving side anymore. And I completely agree with him. I think that his lack of accountability is what causes his issues. If Martell had just sat down and just said, one day, maybe had an interview with somebody, instead of blaming his ex-wife for the demise of the relationship, he took accountability and said, you know what? I cheated. I should not have cheated on my ex-wife. She was a wonderful wife, but I did something wrong. And I've had to work on myself. I'm so sorry. That could have been the end of it. Instead, he was plotting and scheming to try to make her the problem in the relationship by trying to release intimate moments with her and then make it seem like it was another man. That is taking things too far. So people can't just like brush that under the rug and act like it never happened because you want everybody to get over it and be loving on your body. And like, besides, this same body of yours is practically trying to destroy your marriage. If we hear it from you, practically trying to destroy your marriage. So it's like, is it that you don't have regard for your marriage, or you don't care about the fact that this man is spurring what you say are lies about you and, women and all that kind of stuff, yet you're still out here defending him? I get the impression that Martell knows and has a lot more on these men than he is putting out there. I feel like Martell is playing the long game. He's sort of like, I'm not going to release a lot. I'm going to release this one so you guys know that I know. But there are a lot more things that I can release on you guys. But I'm going to do it in drips. If you guys don't stop talking about me, then I am going to have to release these things and release more and release more. So I feel like that is what it is. It's almost like a warning, especially when you know someone has dirt on you. And so you're like, oh, this person has dirt on me. I better not take it too far because he is going to expose me. And I feel like that is what Maurice is trying to avoid, because it doesn't make any sense how this man can go on a show to be defending somebody who accused him of cheating, who basically said he was doing a threesome with his brother. That's crazy behavior. And then be out here defending him. It's given there is more where that came from. It's given this man could expose us and literally throw rocks into our relationships. So let's just keep him happy. Have you guys noticed anytime Marceau and Martell go at it, Maurice always tries to jump in to try and calm things down? And I think it's because maybe Maurice has more to hide than Marceau. Maybe Maurice is who we think Marceau is. I don't think Marceau is innocent, by the way, just FYI. But maybe Maurice has a lot more hidden than we know about. Think about the storyline we've heard about Maurice. Maurice is always talking about how, he has a lot of sexual appetite and all of that. And even when his wife had cancer, he still wanted to be hunching, right? And was constantly on that, even though the lady was in pain, and talking about it like it was not that deep, right? So I will not be surprised if there is more that we can learn about Maurice that is not being explored and needs to be explored a little bit more. And maybe that is why he is giving Martell grace. Because it's better to give Martell grace than have Martell as an enemy, because Martell will be out here burning the whole thing down. That is what I think. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Guys, I'm hungry, so I need to go now. But please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and tap that bell button right next to it so you know every single time that I post or go live. For those of you who have just come in, please watch the replay. And replay gang, whoever is watching later, make sure you leave your comment in the comment section below and share this video. Thank you very much for hanging with me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye.